think my nephew may have stolen the hat, so I apologize. All right, let's get started.
All right, go for it. We're live.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Another day in paradise here. I'm here with my fabled co-conspirator, Rishi Narang. We're going to do another one of these wonderful product review sessions. We're going to hopefully give people some helpful feedback on whatever it is that we're building, that they're building. We won't give people feedback on what we're building, but hopefully people can do that to us today. So if you're just tuning in now and you haven't heard about Pioneer, congratulations. So hopefully it'll be a good day in your life. The website will hopefully do a better job pitching it than me. It's worth checking out. You go to pioneer.app to learn a little bit more about it. But you could do that later. For now, I guess sit back, relax, and kind of enjoy the ride. We will get started now. What I'm going to do is just screen share over here. As soon as Zoom will let me. Excellent. Excellent. And what we'll aim to do is we'll aim to spend somewhere around 4 or 5 minutes on each project, try to be as convivial as possible. Maybe do a quick homepage review and then dig into any specific questions. So Rishi, can you see my screen?
Yep, and this first one is Marina from Germany, and she just would like some landing page feedback.
Okay, awesome. Well, hi, Marina. I'm going to try to address your landing page here. Please don't take anything personally. I'm really addressing this, I think, the way most customers do, which is I'm actually going to try to not think too hard as I go through the landing page. So let's kind of get started. I'm not interested in this. Unleash the real power of growth marketing AI. Generate your personalized growth marketing plan with clear personas, customer journey mapping, data-driven growth channel AI. Okay, so right now I'm just orating here what I'm thinking. I don't know what growth marketing AI is. Let's imagine you bought me, so I'm somewhat of a targeted visitor, so I'm a growth marketer. I don't even know what I'm going to be getting here. Like, what am I purchasing here? So this is a little bit better. It's marketing plans that drive results. Generate my plan. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so I see here with the subdomain. I'm on the real thing now. Trigger awareness, consideration, conversion, delight, advocate. Okay, so this is some type of Kanban or like Omni plan tool that's targeted at a particular domain, I guess. Is it gonna am I supposed to chart things? Is there a demo? It's kind of neat that I can play so much, around with the product so much without creating an account. That's neat. Send me the growth plan.
There's a demo, by the way, if you scroll down on the
here.
Initial landing page.
Search for demo. There's a video demo. We're 2 minutes in. Okay, cool. Set a KPI. Okay, it's some type of workflowy thing for growth marketing. What happens when I click on, okay, let's say insurance. Okay. So it seems like you're actually going to produce, okay, it seems this is pretty exciting. What you're saying is, look, at the end of the day, we have all these boring, I mean, not boring, but like traditional businesses that don't know how to market online, and they pay these consulting firms to produce these, horrendously overpriced marketing plans for them. And we kind of either do that automatically for you or with a slight human touch, kind of auto-generate that for you. And you can use that internally in your company. You can use that to sell to companies. I think that's what's happening here. At least that's what I see, virtual CMO. Okay, so my general, like overall homepage feedback here, we really have 1 minute left, so I'll try to be as quickly as possible. I spent a lot of time kind of just understanding what you're doing. So I think that would be the real flaw and maybe the thing to improve. On the positive side, it looks kind of nice color scheme. It's clear that it's like well thought out. It's nice that you can bounce to a bunch of different things. I just wonder how you communicate what you do a bit better. You may want to like just remove some buzzwords here and talk a little bit more about what you're offering instead of the vision. So, instant, professional marketing plans in 60 seconds. Something like that could be a bit better. And you may say, well, there's like an AI component, whatever. And that could be very real, but I think you'd still first want to explain what you do. And then here, maybe you can talk about, whatever the AI thing. Anyway, so I hope that's somewhat useful. That would be the main thing I would work on. And other than that, I think it's pretty great. That being said, we'll try to move on here. Next up is Depiction.ai. Generate client-ready slides 10x faster. Okay, that's like, by the way, just a contrast. I think we could all kind of grok this a bit faster because it is not pitching the vision. I don't know if people can hear the music. By the way, if people can't hear the music, I strongly suggest if you're going to do these demo videos, at least to me, this sounds like elevator music, and it's distracting either way. Honestly, even if you're to include Schubert in here, it would be distracting. So I'd probably either have you narrating or no music at all. Honestly, I think this is incredibly cool and awesome. It does definitely seem like making great slides is a great application for AI. And I think this homepage, I think could use a bit more pizzazz and flair. This is obviously going to be such a visual product, right? There's like so much more that you can show of it. I would probably have a carousel of slides instead of the video. It'd be the simplest change you might consider making, but gosh, this is cool. Was there a particular question here, Rishi, or should we just talk more about the homepage?
Yes, there's a particular question. So this is built by Daniel and his team, and their plan right now is to eventually they're trying to get to a pre-seed based on proof of demand and proof of that they can actually build this. And so far they have a bunch of email signups from just a wait list. And so one thing that they're trying to figure out, there's two questions here. The first part is just how much can they weigh email signups as proof of demand? Knowing that it's not a real paying user.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the best way to so the honest answer is that is a pretty cheap currency because it is easy to get. So that's a bit like saying, we have a lot of Venezuelan bolivars. There's a lot of people basically preaching that, we have a lot of email signups. What you can try to acquire, which is slightly more, kind of valuable is, look, we have 100 people using this, but they're using it every single day, even if they're not paying. So I'd highly recommend you try to convert a small sliver of those email signups to like actual daily users and then just show activity charts for those people. I think that would be much more satisfying than just, talking about the vanity of an email signup list because, that's pretty easy to do. And that's certainly what a lot of other startups are doing. So I do think it kind of leaves you with an unsatisfying taste in your mouth. What was the second question?
The second question was, well, actually, I'll add one follow-up to that, which is, well, what do you do if the thing isn't actually, you can't put it in the hands of users yet? And actually, well, I'll give you the second question because it's related. Their top priority right now is to set up that ML model and get the trading data to generate predictions and see if they can actually build something quite good based on their sample set of 3,000 slides or so. So if not focusing on that to de-risk, what do you think they should be doing?
I mean, I guess it does. Like it seems like you're in the state where you just haven't like built the thing yet, and so you need to kind of build the thing. Startups kind of work. Software startups kind of work because you can build the thing with pretty low capital investment. Usually, the story kind of is that you manage to at least have a cruddy workable demo you can get into the hands of people kind of without raising a round. I think that would be the healthiest thing just for you, for the company, for your ownership, and honestly just figuring out like if you can make this work or not. It would kind of suck actually to raise a seed round off a waiting list and then realize that you can't actually make it happen because now you're kind of stuck with an overcapitalized thing. And it's the more money you add into your company, the slower you will move. That is a general law of nature. I don't think you can avoid it. I mean, yeah, I don't think you can avoid it. So my recommendation would be to try to get, we could talk about, there's a different brainstorm question, which is how would you get training data and all of that. But like, let's imagine you're just in that acquisition mode now. I would try to not raise that much money and just try to make it work if you can. I mean, I think you can get pretty far training models, honestly, just like on your MacBooks, at least to the point where you can, again, get something early in the hands of 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 people. So that would be my advice.
What do you think of between the goal of let's have the user write some text and generate a slide for them, between that and it sort of reminds me of when people try to go no code versus low code, for the analogy here being, why don't we just give them 10 interesting pieces of content they can put on that slide and let them pick as a way. It kind of makes the model, it gives you the training data as well.
I love that. I mean, you're bringing up an interesting and permanently good idea that any good manager working on anything related to machine learning will do, which is often the people coming up with the concept like want to build the AGI thing, but you want to figure out where you can cut and cheat, and importantly, where you can cut and cheat where as a result of putting something out there, you have a positive feedback loop. So if you can have someone select between multiple different options, you don't have to have some fangled AI present something. This is at the end of the day how search works. We're all basically employed by Google every single day, 6, 7, 8 times a day. Because when you pick the 4th result in SERP, you're improving Google. And so if you can get your users to kind of work for you for free in a similar vein, I think you can probably get something out there much sooner. By the way, I also strongly suspect your early adopters should be people like this that will tolerate failure, which you're going to have. Your models can occasionally generate something totally crazy, and you're going to want people that are okay with that and will give you positive feedback with that. Awesome stuff. We're 1 minute over. We should move on.
Great.
Buyforlifeproducts.com. Sometimes the domain tells you all you need to know. I actually don't really know what For Life products are, but I see here it's okay. So this is a kind of a Shopify catalog for sustainable products. So if you buy the assumption, I guess you'd have to buy the assumption that a large amount of Gen Z, millennials, what have you, really care about this, and importantly will virtue signal, I guess, by buying something like this to the point where they won't just buy the cheapest thing, which to date hasn't been the case, but that may change over time, of course, as we develop this environmentalism religion that seems to be quite popular.
Great. So Adrian from Switzerland has a 2-part question. The first is, they're kind of a platform like this, to your point, is very much built on credibility and trustworthiness. And obviously, if they want to make money, a portion of it for them is paid partnerships. And they have this question of, how do I frame a paid partnership if I'm trying to build a platform based on kind of fairly evaluating products? And what Adrian's saying is, well, they're not going to rank any higher in search results, but they could, for example, they could respond to questions from users. They could add a widget, but it's a hard line to draw because you don't want to come off now as playing corporate favorites.
It's very interesting. So we can think of back in the early days of search, of Google search in particular, this was like I think a perennial question that came up when you talk to people that were early there, which is like, at the end of the day, we want Google to be impartial, but also in order to make Google work, we have to have ads. And so the solution I think can give us a hint into what the right solution is, which is a byproduct of. There's two things going on in Google search that lets them remain impartial despite having quote unquote paid sponsorships. One is that the paid sponsors, that is to say the ads, are clearly highlighted and separated. I'm focusing here on early Google. Late on, Google has obviously done a terrible job of confusing the customer and trying to, intermingle paid and not, but paid and organic. But like old Google is very clear, 2 ads on top and the rest is organic. So one is kind of important highlighting of that and separation of that content, of the sponsored content and all the other content. I think that's really important. And then the second thing that's pretty interesting that Google did that we can learn from is having the customer make the final decision. Really puts the agency in the user's position and lets you never have to be the final arbitrator, and gives the person a sense that this is a tool they can use, as opposed to a shiesty salesperson who has a type of edge to them, if that makes sense. Whereas I think if Google, and this is actually a problem in the many kind of, as we transition to Q&A and Alexa and Siri worlds, if Google were to present one single result to you, you would instantly have a sense that there's something going on there with some type of weird compensation where they're screwing you over. So I wonder if you could kind of do that here. I don't know if that, even directionally answers the question, but I think that should enable you to have, say, a couple of paid sponsors at the top, but then have a lot of organic stuff at the bottom. And maybe you can make the claim even to the paid sponsors that you have, which is like, look, at the end of the day, we're going to let the website sort itself. And so you can sponsor us, but if it's a 2-star item, you're not going to beat a 5-star item in the organic results at the bottom.
And the second part of their question, let's see, if 1 minute you can summarize an incredibly broad problem, which is how should they approach these manufacturers? Basically, the question of enterprise sales.
Yeah, it's the question, of course, of there should be a better name for this, of like, it's the enterprise sale that you need to make. You really need to get like one sponsor to just get yourself started. You may want to find, it's always great to think of yourself kind of and to try to find the startup underdog, company that would potentially make you your sponsor. The downside to this approach is that they often have less capital to spend, but the upside is that they, may be more willing to just work with a young darling company. The main trap that founders get caught in that I would recommend not pursuing is going after kind of like really big companies. It's a trap for 2 reasons. One, their brand is really alluring, like, wow, we could actually get a sponsorship with, Apple. They care a lot about sustainability. But 2, it's a trap because Apple has a lot of people, and those people will actually entertain conversations with you, but nothing will close. So I'd encourage for going after, initially a very small, tight org chart company where the distance between, the person you're talking to and the decision maker is, ideally 0, 1, 2, but no more. Cool. Mugshot Bot.
Great. Yep.
Automated link previews, no design tools required. Automated link preview images for every page on your blog. Okay, so this is Twitter OG text as a service. Should we go through the homepage, or is there a particular question?
There is a particular question. You can feel free to give homepage feedback afterwards as well. Joe's particular question is, how should I find users for something like this? Product Hunt launches obviously give us a temporary boost, but he hasn't found something sustainable yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for something like this, one thing, and we can fold in about that, Rishi, what if we fold in the homepage feedback with the question answer? It's like a croissant with embedded chocolate. So I think basically, I think this wet landing page is kind of the problem. If you think your target customer in an ideal world actually understands what like link previews are, I think you are actually constraining yourself and thinking of your market size. I wonder if the correct variant of this homepage and the way you find users is just going more broadly, maybe like, maybe it's something like make your podcast. Something like this. And basically, I don't even talk about link previews. Just say like, look, we're going to be add our wrapper around our site, pay us $5 a month or whatever your fee is, and we're just going to add more engagement and just make your stuff look more beautiful. This is better. Now, the other thing I've done here that I think could be interesting for you is to go after verticals. I don't think this would require much effort. You're obviously a technical person. You have a template here. And so I think you can have like verticalized landing pages. So, you could have this be it's landing/podcast. And, I would wonder what are the other, Instagram is probably another one. Probably another great one for you is Substack. Basically, the beautiful trend that you're, correctly riding is that there's a lot of there's this unbundling of media properties right now into individual users, and so you might be able to basically become the tool for all of them, and maybe you create verticalized landing pages for each. Now you might say, okay, that's great. What vertical do I go after first? Do I go after people who are kind of independent, like WordPress bloggers, podcast hosts, Substack people, Instagram influencers that have like websites and Shopify stores? I don't know. I would just try all of them and see where it sticks the most. And it's going to be one of those where you're going to know much more than me after literally 3 to 4 days of trying to do this. But I would try to go after the least technical people possible and just really try to pitch them that this is like you'll get them free engagement on Twitter by just making it look better. And by the way, as I think about this, it might be that these people care more about the Facebook unfurling links and just other services that aren't top of mind to us, technical folk. By the way, one interesting thing for you is, I'm sure you know this, but in iMessage, the OG tag can actually be a GIF, which is pretty unique. So I think you can wrap that in here and probably get like a great experience across all platforms. Cool.
As a quick side note, we actually had some code that did this ourselves for Frontier, and then the CSS got a little bit too fancy and suddenly it was breaking. So we haven't now had that in 6 months. So we actually might give this a shot.
There you go. All
Next
right,
up, we have
tab.
Daniel, there's also a link to the right for the onboarding UX, but feel free to take a minute and look at tab before going that. It's a bit long, it's 3 minutes, and so you might want to 2x and click through. Victor has a couple of questions. I think we can kind of condense it to two. One is just onboarding flow feedback, and two is related to that. I guess upstream of that question is it obvious what the value prop of tab is?
Okay, just finished watching this. Oh, in the planned UI land. Okay. Now you can see all my suggestions here. Let's address the second question first, and as improper as that sounds, and then we can talk a little bit about onboarding. We let you split the cost of subscriptions with friends, I think is great. I think this tagline could be a bit better or possibly removed. And then in terms of clarity, what I would wonder is some examples I think might be well served here. Split the cost of your subs. Even better would be like the concept of subscription accounts. It's not clear to me that that's the way like that's the way we think about it. I don't know that that's the way users think about it. I think the users probably think about it just in terms of proper nouns. So it's maybe it's just like split your Netflix, Spotify, Hulu, something like that. I don't like how long this looks. Maybe tighten the border here, but you get the idea. Other than that, I think it's good. This is kind of good. Let's talk a little bit about onboarding while we're here. And this isn't the Chrome profile I use for YouTube, so my recommendations here do not say anything about me. Great.
I was actually judging you based on those recommendations, so thank you.
Honestly, I'm pretty excited to watch the David Bowie video, but that's a different story. I think the main thing you're going to struggle with is the brainstorm for you and the team is what information can we show a customer that's exciting before jamming them into the platform version hell for you? What are nuggets you could potentially show? Oh, sorry if my internet's unstable there. What are nuggets you could potentially show them just earlier on? Because this is going to be really painful. And you can kind of think about it as just a curve of the amount of energy you have to have on the one hand, and this grade of the slope on the other hand. And you could just think of it as kinetic energy, almost like in a physics way. And you need it right now, like the curve is really steep. So you need a ton of kinetic energy to kind of overcome all of this and complete the UX. So I wonder if there's ways to reduce the curve, yes, the grade of the curve, if that makes sense, or you could try to increase energy, but that's hard. I mean, maybe a referral from a friend would really work. But that's the brainstorm. I don't have any, like for example, you should probably ask me which account. First of all, I never believe any of this stuff works. I hate to say it, like these little onboarding like things. I don't think anyone, I think people are downloaded the app ready to go. Let's get, I'm not reading the manual. But I wonder if you can let me pick the account I want to split before putting me through Played. That would be interesting. Like at least I feel like I have some agency now. Maybe I even invite my friends to split that account before Played. That would be interesting too. But anyway, that's the brainstorm. Front load the goodness before that UX. All right.
Great. Next up is it's a question that I kind of think we don't get often enough, but we should. What do you think the most important thing is to consider when choosing a project?
What's the most important thing to consider when choosing a project? Oh, that's interesting. Well, the really boring answer to this is, a 5-minute rant on markets and margin and whatever. But the correct answer, I think, is look, at the end of the day, I think Steve Jobs was, despite all his lunacy, when he says insanely great, I think it's a great term because I think what he is trying to convey to you is you have to be somewhat insane. So the question is, what's the type of project that you're going to be able to have to be insane? Because working on something on the side and even starting a business around it, it is not a rational decision at the end of the day. So you have to be irrational. So how are you going to come up with what you're going to be irrational about? For me, it's a lot of ideas I can't get out of my head that keep on coming back to me. So, I'm the type of person that very much, depending on the day, can think to myself, and unfortunately Rishi can attest to this, as he's the outlet to these uncertain days of like, okay, this is the most important thing for us to be doing now. And literally nothing else matters. And then the issue is, and kind of learned over time, I now know tomorrow it'll be something else. There'll all be interesting ideas, but sometimes you do find there's things that keep on coming back to you. And so you may just want to start observing that a little bit. Interestingly and slightly controversially, I find not writing things down a bit more helpful with ideas. I mean, I find it's like the mind is like a rock tumbler, and when you write things down, you really take the rocks out of the tumbler. It feels pleasing. But I have a lot of stuff that I just let jumble around in my head, and at some point I think you'll see some a thing coming back. And you look, if you don't experience this, then no worries. Don't force it. PG has a very good essay on startup ideas that I recommend reading, which is this. All right, good stuff.
Great. Next up, there's a homepage for you that you can take a look at real quick to understand what Alex is building. And then I just left you his demo video for the app.
Okay. Work out with your favorite fitness influencers anywhere, anytime. Look, by the way, we'll see where the, oh, interesting. Wonder how I would share this in this Chrome window. Copy link to file. Will that work?
I think if you can download it from Slack and then just drag the file into Chrome.
How about? Oh, okay. People seeing a lot of things now. Okay. I will just download it. Okay. Okay. Was the question about the app in general or about onboarding?
How should, Alex's question is, how should we think about getting influencers to tell their followers about Imbue? And how should we think about tapping into their networks? In addition to that, any product feedback as well would be great.
Okay. We'll get to product feedback later. Yeah, how to get influencer growth. Look, so like the great news is I do think there's like OnlyFans, Substack, obviously WordPress is old, but like it does seem like influencer platforms are the thing to do. And so, doing what Substack did for kind of intellectuals, but for, fitness seems really interesting. I feel like if at the end of the day, I mean, promotion by the influencer feels very organic to your product. They should be, I assume, just, there should be like a feature where they're showing the link to the workout, and that obviously takes people to your page, ideally just a web page that they can preview. And so you should have a natural flywheel. I mean, the same way Substack does. That feels pretty straightforward. I would just focus on literally building the best product for influencers. You're going to have an interesting problem that I think Substack will have if you're successful, which is for you to be able to sustain a competitive advantage over time, you will have to become a recommendation engine. Like I think you're becoming a little bit now. And so I kind of get why you're doing it. But that is a problem for later. I would focus now just on kind of serving and worshiping the influencer. So whatever they want, like if the influencer if they tell you, look, I want my own app, I want my own icon on iOS where it's like Tim's workout app, like, Tim's 5-minute abs, whatever it is, you should give them that. And then you might say, well, we'll get disintermediated over time. There'll be different platforms. We won't have any power aggregation, whatever. Who cares? Worry about that later. So that would be kind of my advice in terms of how to get growth. App overall looks good. Like some design aesthetic feedback, I think you'll obviously fix in time. I mean, I assume you guys are kind of on a shoestring budget here, but obviously I think you want a bit more padding on situations like this, and just my classes, the arrows over the M. So obviously you're going to fix that. Certainly a good start. And at the end of the day, but it's worth remembering, by the way, you can go look at all the old homepages of many companies. They're all really ugly. So, everyone starts out kind of an ugly duckling.
This next one, normally when we pick questions for these, there's a specific stage we look for. This one, Kumar from India, he's 17 years old, and he says he's about to change the landing page, so he doesn't need too much feedback on that. But I do think you're going to find his question interesting. He started with kind of what he has on that landing page, online marketing for all platforms, and he decided to focus it a little bit more. And now he's building Substack for SMS, which I thought you would find interesting. What do you think of that strategy?
Okay, great. Substack for SMS. Well, that's super interesting. I mean,
is it the right thing for him to be building?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the right thing for him. And there's a founder market fit there. Like if you tell me, oh, I don't use SMS, I'd say, well, okay, it could be a good idea. Not for you. Also, what? You don't use SMS? But more importantly, I think it's an interesting idea. I guess I don't know what it means, so I'll give you my take on it. What it could mean. It could mean this. There's a lot of people online whose job it is, or I don't know if it's their job, but they are basically employed as permanent, kind of advice givers and almost like influencers, but in WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, Signal groups. They are kind of moderators of forums almost. And I know of a few of these people that are actually almost getting compensated to do this. So if you were to be able to create a platform that's kind of a messaging platform, either with native integration into messaging apps or maybe your own, I'd be tickled by the idea of making it your own. If you could really build a world-class messaging app, I think it would be very interesting. If I could pay like $30 a month, actually, it would probably be closer to like $300 a month to be able to iMessage with, say, Patio 11, who's a very good person to talk to, say, about startup pricing. And maybe it's, $10,000 a month to reach Mark Andreessen. Now, they're going to have an interesting issue. A good company to look at here that kind of worked but didn't was earn.com, which tried to do this with email. And the issue that you fall into is that very highly priced items or product lines just have a weird distortion effect. So, you can see with earn.com what they did towards the end is, the person's donating money to charity. It just feels weirdly extractive and distortive to ask people, $10,000 for you to reply to my email, even though, by the way, that's exactly how lawyers work, for hundreds of years, or dozens of years. So that framing of a product, especially on the lower end, I think could be pretty interesting. It's basically chatbots on demand. So I don't know if that's exactly what you meant by Substack for SMS, but that's what comes to mind. And I think that could be a pretty interesting market. A really, really, really interesting market, in fact. Like, I'm pretty sure that would work. Okay, great.
Great. Down to our final two. Next up, Sam from Cash Coach.
Awesome.
Sam, while you're browsing, we'll give you the two questions. Sam has two questions. How do you build an online community for a boring topic that people don't like to talk about? Actually, I'll just pause on that one first.
Okay. First of all, I would reject the premise that people don't want to talk about this. Actually, I think it is, finances and savings is probably the topic I think many people are thinking about, most, up there with, like, basic needs like, food, sex, shelter, water. It's pretty low on Maslow's hierarchy.
The Bobbleheads forum.
Exactly. So I think people are super interested in talking about this. I think the main question is, I don't know, man. Look at, I was going to say maybe people don't want to talk about savings, but there's so many subreddits just about, like, coupon clipping and saving strategies. So what I would probably do is try to figure out, maybe befriend one of the mods actually of those subreddits. Some of them are super active and some of them make a lot of money. I think the coupon clipping, like, websites, the equivalent of, like, miles, points, miles, expert, whatever.com for websites, gross a tremendous amount of money. A lot of these people end up selling credit cards, I think, which is also a huge moneymaker. The Points Guy is what I'm referring to. The Points Guy, I think, is an 8 or 9 figure dollar business. anyway, so some of these concepts are super valuable. I'll try to befriend some of the mods of some of these sites. In a very non-self-serving way, and then try to see how you could be appealing to those communities. I think there's very self-serving ways of doing this that become kind of instantly meh and unappealing, and very honest, and open-minded ways. So just browse the internet and go through those communities, and I'm sure you can find them. Now, you might say, well, I have these people. How do I make for an engaging conversation amongst them? I would not overthink it. I would just become entrenched in these forums and just osmote whatever they're doing. There you have the great thing for you that like Boom has as an example, but maybe SpaceX does not, is it's been done before. You could just look at the Concorde, as opposed to a reusable rocket, which, mankind has not produced yet. So I would just look at the Concorde, which for you is, these subreddits.
Sam's second question is his goal, what he's trying to do next is focus on raising a seed round. And so should he be focused on user growth or starting to monetize and proving out the business model? Sadly, I don't have numbers for you.
Well, that's just fine. The reason I'm slightly at a pause here is at the end of the day, like, it's an interesting question because you are a money product. The question is almost a little bit easier if you were like just a usage, I don't know, thing, like an early stage Figma, just get people to use it and fall in love. You're a money product. And so like, if you're so close to the dollar and you can't get people to part with the dollar, maybe that's a really interesting tell or sign. That would be one side on just focusing on revenue. But at the end of the day, I think you're at this point, I imagine, where, look, here's what's going on actually when you focus on usage. Here's why it's a double whammy. It may be easier to get, and more importantly, and I think this is certainly true for Pioneer, is a great example of a company where our kind of profit center is very delayed. So Pioneer's profits will take 6-7 years to actually like enter the bank account. But what fuels us is talking to users and hearing good things about users doing well, what have you. And it's a double whammy in the sense that it both informs product design for us, but it's also like fuel and motivation. It gives you energy. So that would kind of instruct you to just focus on talking to people and getting usage and users in and getting them in your Slack and hearing stories about how, user X or Y and Z saved money. I mean, I just think that will be energizing and fun. And you may cook yourself into a bit of a thermal corner and say, hey, we have like 100,000 people, but they're so focused on saving money, they're saving it from us. I think that's probably an okay place to be. There's a very interesting strategy discussion there, as opposed to, I'd rather you be in that situation as opposed to telling me we have $1,000, $2,000 in MRR, but people don't really care about it. So.
Great. For our final question, we have yet another sort of edge case on the monetization question, which is this team is building one of those products where monetization is kind of a very important part of the question, because for Ethi, a core value of theirs is the users are not the product, right? They're not going to ever end up selling ads or selling data. So should they charge now, or should they wait until they're much larger? A key point for them being, charging early might actually be an important signal, a positive signal for them.
Yes. So a couple of things. First of all, before we dig in, it'd be great to get rid of these chevrons. And I do think your positioning here, and although I very much appreciate as a past employee of the company that's missing from this lineup that you didn't include them. But I do think it is particularly important for your company because you're going after smart users who care about this. I think this to kind of the digital world is what environmentalism is to the physical world. So you're going after kind of awake people that care. I would very much focus on explaining what your business model is, because if you don't, people will assume it's them. So I actually think I'd love giving the advice of focusing on usage over revenue for two reasons. One is it's slightly controversial and it's not what most people say. And two, it's fun. And I think it's true. But I actually think you may want to focus on revenue first. Because if not, like, people are going to assume there's something fishy going on. I would assume that, oh, you're going to sell my data. There's some hedge fund buying your data at the end of the day. And maybe you're going to tell me, yeah, we anonymize it, whatever. So if you can come out there and be fully transparent, kind of like the company you're excluding from this list, who openly says, like, we sell phones. That's the way we make most of our money. And so that's our business model. If you can come out with a strong statement like that, maybe you just charge for the product up front. I think you can feature that as a virtue almost. You will pay for this because you don't want us to be doing ads or something weird with your data. So I'd very much, if you can't hide it, flaunt it.
Great, thank you. We actually do have a surprise 11th submission. It's from Cambridge Analytica. No, just kidding. That's all we have.
Okay, awesome stuff. I mean, I think we do have a surprise last minute submission, which I'm just going to leave here, and we don't have to talk about it much. It's an interesting homepage. As you can see, it moves, oh, wow, at crazy speed, but that's my plugin. Let's just make sure
It's already 4x and you're just multiplying it on top.
There we go. So, we're just going to kind of leave this here and see if anyone's watching, if they're interested in checking it out. We will, of course, be prolifically trying to spread the word about it. So if you're kind of intrigued in what this gift means, I highly recommend you go to the site, pioneer.app/launcher. It's really designed for people, I think, watching the stream, I hope. It's really designed almost for anyone who has a shower thought that they have in the back of their mind and wants to find a way to marshal the courage and kind of conviction to maybe turn that into a project and even a company. So that is all. Rishi, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun, as always.
Always. Thank you, Daniel.
And we'll be here soon, right? In the week after next, I think.
Yes, we'll have one last before the holidays.
Excellent. All right, we'll see you all